Next on CyberCrime.
He was darkness. My daughter was sunshine. And I'm very numb when it comes to him.
This could be the first case where cyber-stalking ends in murder. The family of Amy Boyer talks about their daughter, the crime, and the website her killer left behind.
Then, could Amy's murder have been prevented? People close to the case speak out. A cybercrime special focusing on cyber-stalking is next.
CyberCrime is brought to you by Symantec.
Hi, and welcome to the show. Let's see. This week, Melissa mutated again. Microsoft's being encouraged to move to Canada, and Napster fans can dress up to show their support. The details later in the show. But first, let's go to Jennifer with a special report.
Thanks, Alex. Cyber-stalking. It's chilling, it's scary, and it's real. All too real for the family of Amy Boyer. Her life came to a sudden end after being cyber-stalked without her knowledge for years. We have a cybercrime special report on Amy's story.
Amy has so much going for her. She has so many plans.
Plans that would have included a 21st birthday in May and graduation from dental school. But Amy Boyer's life was cut drastically short when a young man's obsession turned into murder. On October 15, 1999, Amy was slain outside the dentist's office where she worked in Nashua, New Hampshire. Her killer, 21-year-old Liam Yowens, turned the gun on himself, ending his own life. But Amy's murder really began on the internet, years before the brutal killing.
This was an obsession that this man had, and where he went on the internet and went into detail of how he was going to kill this poor woman.
Sergeant Frank Payson, a detective with the National Police Department, investigated Amy's murder. Her killer may have silenced himself, but he left behind a telling, disturbing website.
Once we opened up the entire website, then explained to us what this was. This was almost a maniacal stalking done by this man against Amy Boyer. It was a horrifying thing which detailed his plans to kill this young woman.
From afar, Liam Yowens worshipped Amy Boyer. The infatuation began in high school when Amy was in the 10th grade, but they were not friends. In fact, according to Amy's stepfather, Tim Remsburg, Amy never knew Yowens, never talked to him, never socialized with him.
He mentions in his website that he created about her that he was in her algebra class in the 10th grade, and that's where the obsession began. The teacher said her name. He looked up and said, Amy. And he looked over, and that was the Amy that he remembered. And from that point on, he followed her around the school, watched her in the hallways, watched her on the bus, paid attention to everything that she did. But she never had any idea this kid was out there.
Yet Yowens was stalking her methodically, off and online. He was also stockpiling a cache of weapons in his bedroom. Among them, 2 AR-15s like this one.
The guns that were found in his room, specifically the 2 AR-15, they're semi-automatic rifles. They shoot a projectile or a round that travels at 3,200 feet per second. That weapon was made to kill people. It is not a hunting rifle. It is not a target shooting rifle. The only purpose that it serves is an anti-personnel, an anti-human being weapon.
Yowens' website proudly displayed the weapons, including the gun that was ultimately used to kill Amy. It was posted alongside chilling details of his fixation with her, like, God, I love her, and why don't I kill her too? We know from the website that Amy's killer stalked her here outside her home. In fact, he wrote that this was where he planned to kill her, but he decided he needed a different location when on several occasions while driving up and down the street watching Amy's house, he saw her father's truck parked outside. He thought the family was on to him.
He wrote in his website, I cannot do this here. I must find somewhere else. He then put a search out for her employer's address. All these research companies came back with, can't find it, not enough paper trail on this young woman. We need more information.
Desperate to find out where Amy was working, Yowens went online and bought her Social Security number for less than $50. Now he knew where to find her, and he did.
After several weeks of logging her hours, learning her schedule, on the 15th of October, he was there waiting for her when she got out, and that was the day she died. And what upsets me is these companies they sell all this personal private information. They sell Amy Boyer's Social Security number, and they have no idea who the man is they're selling this to.
Tim Remsburg is also upset that no one, including the National Police Department, knew about the killer's website prior to the murder, yet it was live on the Internet for years.
No one in Nashville knew it. Most certainly the police didn't know it. The Remsburgs didn't know it. Possibly he communicated with people out there. We know he did have a conversation with a subject in Europe who actually may have seen this website but didn't take it seriously. But no one in this area had ever seen this website.
Well, when this first happened, and the police called us to the station the night of the murder and told us what they had found in his room, and they had found these websites, I was just so angry that how could this information have been out there for 2.5 years and nobody made a phone call? No one's responsible for this?
Assigning responsibility for this type of crime, well, there's no easy answer. The blame, of course, can be placed on the gunman, although he will never have to face the consequences of his actions. But could there have been a different ending to this tragic story if the family and police had known about the website before the murder? Coming up on CyberCrime.
If someone had told us this website existed, or the Remsburgs, I think we would have been able to save this poor woman's life.
When we come back, we'll have more on Amy's story. Back to our story. It's been 7 months since the brutal killing of Amy Boyer, and yet her murder makes no more sense today than when it happened. The question, could this have been prevented, continues to haunt everyone close to the case.
For Tim and Helen Remsburg, every day is a struggle.
Just wake up every day and try to function. I really feel like our life is ruined. You know, some days I get up and I can make it through the day, and other days I get up and I can't do anything. You know, so I don't know how you get through it. Hopefully time will help.
Time might help heal the pain of losing their 20-year-old daughter, Amy Boyer, but it will never help them understand why no one saw it coming. Her killer, Liam Yowens, posted a roadmap on the web outlining his intent to murder Amy, yet no one knew it.
I hope you can imagine. I mean, we would never have sat back and watched this unfold if we knew this was going to happen. Amy would have been taken down to Pennsylvania to her grandmother's retirement apartment, and she would have been living down there in total, silence until this thing was taken care of. And you can bet I would have taken care of it. I don't ask anybody to fight my battles for me.
But how could Tim fight a battle he didn't know existed, and would things have turned out differently if he did? Of course, we will never know, but those close to the case, including law enforcement, agree Amy's murder might have been prevented.
If the police had known about this website, if the Remsburgs had known about this website and been able to contact the police, I really believe this murder would have been preventable. We would have been able to seize these weapons. We would have been able to arrest him and charge him for the threats that he made against this woman.
Threats made in black and white on the Internet. Threats like, why am I killing her? But who's responsible? Amy's killer ended his own life immediately following the murder. Sergeant Frank Payson, who investigated Amy's murder, says some of the burden should be shouldered by the Internet service providers.
I think absolutely these Internet providers are responsible for what they carry on the Internet. They're making a fortune. It's a billion-dollar industry. There should be some federal or governmental regulation as to what you have to do or the approvals you have to meet before you can put something on the Internet.
Yet the Communications Decency Act states that ISPs like GeoCities, which hosted Yowen's site, cannot be held responsible for the postings of third parties. And while Tim Remsburg has a clear understanding of the law, he says morally it's a different story.
That's the hardest thing, is knowing how easily this thing could have been avoided. And how unfair it was that I wasn't notified. No one let me know that I'm in this war with this kid. And, you know, these companies said that there were at least 50 hits on the site, you know. Most of them were probably him creating the site. We don't know. But I'm sure there were some that weren't.
Trudy Gregory is the director of training at the National Center for Victims of Crime. She, too, believes that something could have been done before the murder.
If indeed she had known that she was being cyberstalked, that there were pages that described what her murder would be like, then indeed she could have taken some actions that maybe could have given her measures of protection. And certainly the Internet providers who were allowing these types of home pages to exist on their service could have removed those home pages.
If the ISP even knew what was on Yowen's web pages, and it's not clear they did. But according to the Rensburgs, they should have. Yowen's website was a cry for help that went unanswered.
I know how sick he was to do something like this. And I look at it, this was on the Internet for 2+ years, and he was begging for help. I think it got to the point that when nobody helped him, you know, that just, you know, made him want to do it even more. I really think he was begging for help.
What is your advice to other families on how they can keep this from happening to them?
For right now, we suggest you put your children's names, your children's friends' names, your children's schools into the computer on a regular basis, looking to see who might be out there targeting them. You never know. I mean, if we had put Amy Boyer's name in there, she'd be here now. We have to learn from our mistakes and make this a better place. And my question is, when do we do that? How many does it take? Is it going to take a brainiac kid from school that, you know, that can figure out how to build a bomb and blows up an entire school and leaves a note somewhere that says, check out www.youshouldhavelookatme.com, you know? I mean, what's it going to take?
With a story like this, you'll go over and over with what if. But this site, Jennifer, was on for more than 2 years, and nobody knew about it.
Well, nobody reported it.
Right.
I mean, certainly the Rensburgs didn't know about it, and even the National Police didn't know about it. And the Internet Service Provider didn't know about it. And one of the takeaways from this story, I mean, one of the reasons that the Rensburgs were so willing to share their pain and share Amy's story is that they want something good to come of this. And one of the points they make is that, look, we know by law that Internet service providers do not have to monitor web content, and realistically they can't. There's so much out there. So you as the user go online, enter in your family's name, enter in your, you know, friends of family's names, go online, enter in keywords, see what's out there.
And that brings up another point, too, with Internet service providers, too. Yes, they don't have a legal obligation, but if they're given notice, and we see this all the time, sometimes they'll investigate something. They'll look into it. So if you see something online that you think might be suspicious, you have to report it to the Internet service provider. Another point, the Social Security number with Amy, right? Amy's family is working with law enforcement on
They are. They're trying to get the Internet Security Act passed. And what this bill would do is it would still allow banking companies and credit institutions and law enforcement access to someone's Social Security number, but it would make it illegal for them to sell it to a third party.
Right.
And this bill was passed by the Senate, and it now goes before Congress in October.
Well, we cover all the legislation with CyberCrime, so we'll watch that bill very closely. Thank you very much for the story, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
There's still plenty more ahead on CyberCrime. Just when you thought the Melissa virus run was over, a new variant pops up. That story in our news and reviews next. We begin with yet another Melissa variation. This one's called Killer Resume, and it can really do a job on your PC. The subject line reads Resume, Janet Simons. The attachment may be called Explore Doc or Resume Doc. It will attempt to delete all files in the My Documents folder, as well as those critical to keeping the PC operating. The virus spreads itself to all entries found in the Microsoft Outlook address book, and it affects only Windows PCs. Protection is available for most antivirus websites. Microsoft's response to the love bug virus was to develop a patch for its Outlook email application, but the cure may have problems of its own. On the positive, the new patch lets administrators selectively commit certain attachments, but on the flip side, Microsoft says it could affect how compatible Outlook works with other software programs. Now, those include AccountMate, FileNet, Novell, Palm, Pivotal, and Starfish. The judge in the Microsoft antitrust trial has now ordered another round of legal briefs on the government's proposal to split the software giant. That will delay a decision for at least a week. Judge Thomas Penfield Jackson is considering a proposal by the government to break the Microsoft into two parts. One devoted to the Windows operating system, and the other to the application programs such as Microsoft Office. On Wednesday, Microsoft filed a 34-page brief in response to that proposal. Now, Microsoft suggested a number of technical and substantive changes, and the question still remains, will a breakup actually benefit consumers?
One of the claims that the government has made is that innovation has been harmed, that there are products that should have been on the market that weren't on the market because of Microsoft's conduct. Now, even the judge admitted that he can't, to a certainty, say that that's true.
From the consumer point of view, there's no shock here. The operating system continues, the desktop applications continue, they're out there, and slowly what will happen is that a new competitive process will free them from that complete domination of Microsoft.
The judge gave prosecutors until noon Monday to reply to Microsoft's reply, then Microsoft has until Wednesday to file any additions. Meanwhile, there's word that Microsoft is being encouraged to relocate its operations to neighboring Canada. The authorities in British Columbia have reportedly offered to do a deal with the company, promising favorable treatment, which may include a loan to build a new headquarters if Microsoft agrees to move its operations to the other side of the Canadian border. Napster fans have a new way to advertise their support. Rock group The Offspring is selling T-shirts, hats, and stickers featuring the Napster logo on its website. But The Offspring are reportedly keeping the profits, and Napster hasn't given them permission to use its logo. The Offspring were one of the first bands to come out in support of the San Mateo, California-based company. And Madonna may join the ranks of Metallica and Dr. Dre in filing suit against the company. Samples of Music, the first single off the Madonna yet-to-be-released album, were leaked to fan sites and started showing up on Napster over the weekend. Still ahead on CyberCrime.
Everyone ought to have a license to drive on the net.
Karen Wurtzel from Atomic Tangerine talks about the responsibility that comes with traveling the net. Her chaos theory is next. Wait, what year did the following events take place? A NASA site is taken down by a group calling itself H4G13. Former Beatle Paul McCartney is knighted at Buckingham Palace by Queen Elizabeth II. And Princess Diana is killed in a car crash with her boyfriend, Dodi Fayed. Was it 1996, 1997, or 1998? I'll be back after the break with the answer. Back to our timeline. A NASA site is brought down by a group calling itself H4G13. Former Beatle Paul McCartney is knighted, and Princess Diana is killed in a car crash. It all happened in 1997. Now, I know that we've covered a lot of information on the show. A good place to catch anything that you've missed is the website. The address is easy, cybercrime.com. At the site, you'll find all the stories we covered on the show, even some that we didn't have time for, plus all the late-breaking cybercrime news. And while you're there, you can give your computer that much-needed physical. Our security scanner is at the top right-hand of the page. The scanner checks for the top 5 viruses like the new Melissa variant, the resume virus, the love bug and its variants, and Happy 99. And you can also find out whether your browser reveals your own personal information. And we're always trying to improve this scanner, so if you have a sec, send us feedback at scannerfeedback@zdtv.com. Okay, now let's turn our attention to chaos theory. Internet law is playing catch-up. Meanwhile, net citizens are self-regulating. Etiquette, short for Internet etiquette, refers to some of those special guidelines users abide by online. Karen Wurtzel heads the information security practice at the venture consulting company Atomic Tangerine. The way that we're treating each other online, chaos. Here's her theory.
Everyone ought to have a license to drive on the net. If you're going to be a member of the Internet community, you need to understand what it means to be a responsible member of the Internet community. Every single PC that's out there has the capability of being used as a weapon against another member of the network community. And if you're going to be a member of the net, understand what that means. Understand what the security is on your PC. Understand what you need to do to protect it and what you need to do to be a good citizen. And if we don't all pull together in order to make this place secure, there is going to be roadkill all over the information superhighway. It's not just individuals. Every company ought to have a corporate license as well. If you can't understand what it means to be a member of the network community and take the responsibility to put things in place that need to be there in order to protect yourself, your own interests, as well as the interests of your peers on the Internet, don't go there.
Believe what Karen said. Go back to February, the distributed denial of service attacks, right? Yahoo was in pretty good shape, but it was everyone else's computer that made them a victim, so it can definitely happen that way.
Well, and I like the way Karen draws a similarity between the information superhighway and the real-world highway, because if you're on the freeway and you're driving along and you're a very good driver, somebody else could be breaking the rules, somebody else could be violating the law, and you're going to run into problems.
Defensive driving.
Right, defensive
driving on the web.
Right. Well, that's it for another episode of CyberCrime. Thanks for taking time out to watch.
And you won't want to miss next week's show. Here's a peek at what we're working on.
By using a skimmer or handheld wedge, as it's called, they can actually read the mag stripe to defeat that kind of security feature.
It's a crime called skimming, swiping the stripe off credit cards, and it's being done everywhere, from gas stations to restaurants to ATM machines. Next week, we'll show you how crooks steal your account information in an instant and what you need to do to protect yourself.
That story plus much more is next week, so keep watching. And if you've got feedback or story ideas, let us know. You can email us at cybercrime@zdtv.com.
You can also drop by the chat room Monday between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or post a message on our board at cybercrime.com. That's all for now. We'll see you in 1 week.